Listeners of the Randomness of Nothing podcast. This is your host, Rashad Woods. I always talk about compelling guests, stories, and successful people, and I get a chance to talk to somebody across the globe. And this is the honor and pleasure of this show because success doesn't limit your zip code, your country, or your geographical location. Adarsh Mishra is the epitome of that success. Thank you so much for being on this show.
I'm glad that I am on your platform. I'll be very honest with you. Thank you for your kind words, but it's really an opportunity for me, honestly. So thank you.
It's an honor and a pleasure, man. Here you are. You reached out to me and we talked multiple times. I've read your story, and you bootstrapped yourself to success. And just briefly for this audience, he's an expert in organic growth, assisting companies globally and becoming a leader, and not just a transaction for a company to get a spike in content and transaction, but long-term strategy growth. And in the era of social media, there's a lot of companies vying for your attention that want the quick hot moment, but they haven't built sustainable systems, and you do that.
Exactly. In the times when attention is so scarce, like everyone has 24 hours only, my job is to understand for the right prospect, for the right audience, what I can deliver that, as we were discussing earlier before this episode as well, that they have a higher ROA, return on their attention, how many insights that can get from there. And honestly, for companies as well, they have always looked at it from the point of view of, hey, there have been some successes in the past who've gotten, let's say, X million views or X this or X what, that, whatever. But they've just tried to back engineer the visibility of it, whereas they've not focused the authority that has led it to this point, right? And that's my motto with building Aim and Go as well, which is to go beyond visibility, like toward authority. Can we, for your sector of audience, for your sector of prospects or whatever, can you as a venture, let's say you're someone who is making buttons for shirt, can you probably, and you're dealing with, let's say, shirt manufacturers, can you come out with insights on what's the trend for shirts going on, and how does this influence the design of buttons or the consumer behavior? Maybe button is getting eliminated altogether. People want to prefer jeans, whatever that is. If you have these insights and you share them with your audience, there is a lot more trust in the person who's partnering up with you, who's your customer or client, that, hey, this person is an authority in this space. They have so many insights, or they've been in the business for so long that I want to, end up trusting them. And at the end of the day, it is about, just showing up for a longer period. That is where you get, your mind share is captured. I still remember from my childhood, there were so many advertisements, there were so many jingles that I still remember by heart. The thing here is they were doing this again and again. There was a very high recall.
Without question.
It was not like this space where everyone is just trying to get my attention. It was not like really like that, right? So of course they had their own benefits and everything, but what I'm trying to say is, for any venture out there, any founder out there, their objective should be, hey, today maybe I'm not growing at that large pace of, let's say, a random creator who's probably creating entertainment content or whatever. But you need to believe that if you're, let's say, in a space like finance, someone is not gonna trust a person who's, let's say, randomly dancing on some reels or making some jokes with their financial decisions, right?
Right. And I think that's important, right? Right. And I think that, we call it the mirror theory, right? So what works really well in the space of entertainment and viral moments is not necessarily pertinent to your particular sector of work and business. Right? It's a different clientele. It's a different base. It's a different person you're trying to cultivate. That's not to say they can be the same people. The same person who watches who's in finance could absolutely be entertained by a dancing, jingling video, but that can't be your specific branding of your content. And then more importantly, you can't say, well, because I don't have 500 million views, I'm unsuccessful in my particular line of work.
Correct. Right. I mean, that's how it is. Like in India, especially this place where I'm born and, I especially operate in, I've seen a lot of creators who come and go, and, there are so many people out there.
Oh my gosh.
The most cheapest internet. There are multiple people watching you, but they're not really, the difference between, listening and hearing. They are not listening to you. They're just hearing you.
Right. Of
you're
course.
just next person who comes on that.
Background music, right? Right. I need something
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
while I'm washing my dishes, so to speak, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That's just how it is. You're an instrumental music for them.
Yeah.
Nothing more. And also, if you
Right.
want to reach to the masses, what happens is you have to dilute your content a bit, right?
Right.
You have to make it either edgy, dilute a bit, because the person who's out there, let's say, working in a different professional altogether, and let's
Mhm.
say a very big audience on the internet by the way is of teenagers and young adults,
Oh my
more
gosh.
people
Oh
who
my
currently are not going to pay you any money, and especially in
no.
the most boring spaces, maybe they are not even selling something for you. So it does
Yeah.
not make
Right.
sense how popular you became in that
Right.
particular area, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's the thing, honestly, and especially I to now speak to my clients and force them to do lot more written content, because there is a lot
Right.
of intent that goes behind someone coming across whatever you've written, reading it
Right.
out, engaging with it. And that's a very
Right.
high quality engagement, I'll be very honest with you, because they've put in a lot more effort,
Mhm.
uh, contrary to someone just going through a reels once
Without
or twice.
question. I
Yeah,
think the most like what it's so when I was at Podfest in Orlando, Florida, and it was a podcast
yeah,
convention. And one of the things, there was a gentleman who was a speaker. His name escapes me, but he had a podcast on horses and that sector of business, and he had a
yeah.
very tailored message to that specific brand. So he was
Hmm.
able to cultivate sponsors and advertisers in that lane. Is he ever going to necessarily? I don't want to misspeak about his business, but he's not competing with the viral moment of somebody, the
Correct.
TikTok sort of, instant gratification of I'm just driving in my car and want to send it, to my
Yeah,
friends and have a good laugh, right? So it's very important that, what I've learned even doing this, right? So I talk to subject matter experts. I bounce from people who are authors to entrepreneurs to my martial arts coaches, right? But the message is the same. How did you create something that you were passionate about and grew it from
right.
scratch, right? So I have no intention of coming on here and cussing and screaming and jumping up and acting a fool to go viral, because my audience would not be receptive to me when they're trying to tell a serious story. We can be
Right.
lighthearted, but that's not the lane that I'm trying to cultivate.
Exactly, that's the case. I mean, very respectfully, if I have to compare Logan Paul and Jamie Dimon, we both know
Right.
who's more popular versus who's more powerful, right?
Right. Right.
And who has
Perfect
more
example.
authority. Yeah.
Perfect example.
So exactly. So that is how, in the case of especially people in the professional space, they need to think like that. I'm not saying
Right.
creators cannot go out there and create some entertainment piece of video out there, whatever.
Of course.
They should, right?
Mhm.
But I'm speaking here all in all for brands and businesses and execs, because that is the area that I really specialize in and I work with day in and day out.
I have to imagine it has to be difficult in this era for business executives, particularly when they're trying to get, that under 25 demographic who only knows social media and the internet. And they're
Yeah,
like, okay, it's like somebody like watching their parent learn the new pop star and they're complete, and then they try to do like their dance, right? Like they see
yeah,
like the video of the kids watching and they're like, Mom, Dad, stop it. So like it's got to be like a generational kind of struggle for them to want to get a hot viral take when it's like, no, no, don't do that, because this is going to dilute your process in brand. Do you find that challenging?
I mean, yes, it is a bit challenging. I'll be very honest with you. Because what I understand is, the leadership at the top is also changing at a lot of institutions, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
this is a person who's, let's say, 30, 35 year old, who is at least, if not more of his, but at least half of his life, that human has spent on, internet. They've consumed
Right.
content on the internet. That has been their main
Right.
place. So now you need to be relevant for that person too, even if you
Yes.
were, let's say, for the person who was 65 and earlier sitting on their seat. So
150%.
exactly.
150.
So yeah, and it goes beyond relationships. They need to feel like, hey, and I think a lot more business relationships are also like this. Ki, can I sit down and talk to you if anything goes
Right.
wrong? Because let's say someone can do the job, right? It's not right like we're creating a rocket today. It's not a
Mhm.
contract for a rocket. There are multiple people out there,
Right.
but can I sort of be in this professional relationship with this
Right.
person?
Yes.
That becomes
Right.
more important, right? And then you either being lot more relevant, authoritative,
Of
or
course.
whatever that is becomes an edge, right? So when I sit down with people today, I first of all try to get down to their objective. Hey, what
Mm,
is your objective? If you're looking at, let's say, catering a lot more younger audience,
mm,
which influences the kind of talent you bring onto the team, yes, let's do some entertaining piece. Like Blackstone, they went on a Taylor
mm.
Swift tour. Blackstone
Right.
is, I think, second biggest asset management company in the world. But
Yes.
why did they
Yes.
do this? Is not for their clients only. They did this to
Yes.
attract the right talent into the company, which is
For
coming out
sure.
there and deciding, hey, I want to work for, let's say, the coolest company in the world. I don't want
Of
to
course.
work in a boring space, right?
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
not
Right.
just about
Right.
money today. So that was their objective. So they went in that direction. But if
Right.
someone's objective is something else altogether, they should move a lot in. Like, I feel the most important niche and where there'll be no competition is personality.
Without
This niche
question.
have no competition ever altogether. Because no
Well,
one can be crushed with words.
well, that's right. So, like, listen, I'm not oblivious to the space that I'm trying to carve out. There's thousands, like, I
Right.
mean, there's a podcaster. It's a very low barrier to entry business, right? Anybody
Correct.
can get a computer, a smartphone, and start, a podcast.
Exactly.
It's the content, the personality, your preparation, and the topics that are going to ultimately make you last this through, right? So, like in your sector, I say this respectfully, a lot of people, because of the accessibility of the internet, can make something go viral very quickly for somebody.
Correct.
But do you have the strategy and the thought process? Because trends change quickly. People, a hot take can what was in, a week ago does not mean anywhere close to
Correct.
where it is now. I mean, it's so competitive right now. I mean, if you're not on your game and on point with what you're doing daily, you will be left in the dust in this era.
Exactly, exactly. That's exactly the case I'm talking about. Because actually, a lot of brands, startups, and everyone who get into this fallacy, and a very good example of this is, Cluely. We saw the founder, he had this mentality, okay, if I can get, let's say, X million impressions on anything, I
Yes.
can sell it. But
Yep.
the objective is, can it also build trust? Because if you're
Right.
operating from the point of view of visibility, it is more often than not a challenge to crack trust and authority, and
Without
which is the
question.
most important thing for a business today. So that's why we now see that they've pivoted. That's why we
Mhm.
see no, them not being in the internet
Yeah.
today anymore.
Right.
That's the reality. I mean, today you're just a TikTok scroll away in
Yep.
burning your, let's
That's
say,
it, man.
$400,000 investment on, let's say, a project that you made, or
Yeah.
a production that you set up, or whatever that
Without
is.
question. Without question. And,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we'll get in some details, but it's like, listen, if and you really better have something. Not everybody has the luxury of having a 6-pack of abs and can bench press, this amount of weights and can. Okay, I'm the fitness guy, and my body looks like it was carved out of stone, right? Like that can sell, and that can. Most of us don't look like that. You know what I'm saying? Like most of us have to have some. I'm not
Maybe
dissing because
not
those
me,
people can.
but you do, Rashad.
No, not even close. No, no, no.
Oh, oh,
There's
oh,
maybe gel
humble.
underneath here. But having said that, if you don't have, and I'm not dissing those people because some of those people are very smart, they're not just good looking, but
Right,
you have to have something sustainable past something that looks aesthetically beautiful, right? In
correct,
order for the substance to really be. So you have what's called the hook and retention diagnosis system, which we've kind of
right.
surface level on, but how did you specifically create that?
So hook and retention diagnosis system is basically, it stems from the ROI idea only, wherein my objective is ki, let's consider a YouTube video, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the hook for a YouTube video is a thumbnail, and alongside it's, early 10-15 seconds, where people
Right.
are judging if it's worthwhile, their next 10 minutes or 30 minutes or however long you have made that video. So that is the early part of it. That's sort of the poster that you see out of a bakery, and then you
Right.
enter, and then you try the cake that was there in the poster. You see the video that was sort of giving you an idea of in the thumbnail,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the real test of the cake or the video is, where you
Without question.
realize if it
Without question.
delivered onto the promise.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so it's fun. It's the same thing. Like I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just saying that's the true test of its, saying, hey, it delivered on my promise. So one thing is, of course, in this, analysis, that do we understand our ROA is high? Did we promise something and did we deliver
Right.
on that? And if you do
Right.
that, I'm telling you, if people whoever is interested in, looking at that poster or looked at that poster and entered your break and you delivered to that promise, boom, you have a
Right.
higher retention. That person would come again. Yeah.
So you are literally one viral tweet away from the netherworld, right? I mean, it can
Yeah.
go south so bad for you. And the old saying of good news travels fast, bad news travels faster. In this
Right.
era, man, I mean, it's lightning quick, man, on everything. Every
Correct.
single food, movie,
Correct.
it, clothing, a podcaster like myself, like if I'm rotten,
Exactly.
I promise you, like you're gonna see those views go.
Yeah, exactly. And especially like as platforms like Reddit get more and more mainstream, like especially in Southeast Asia, I do not see it
Yes.
be mainstream yet. But
Hmm.
as soon as it is on the rise, right? As soon as people discover the platform, people get regular on it, you'll
Yeah.
realize that how many criticisms that brands would have to analyze and make it a
Oh
part of
yeah.
their strategy to
Yeah.
work on either their social strategy, either on their products or whatever that is. Today we
Right.
do not see that happening specifically in marketing, wherein people consider what's going on Reddit because it's a very anonymous and real opinion of a human, right? There is no face, so
Right.
no one cares, no one's scared.
Right.
So
Well,
yeah, I mean, as these platforms grow and companies would have to be more and more, careful now
without
and
question.
take everything with a pinch of salt. Yeah.
How do you navigate, countries that, the engagement across globally, right? Because what could be acceptable in a region of the world could not be acceptable in
Right.
another region of the world, right? And I don't want to get,
Right.
too deep into, it exists, right? And there's either cultural sensitivities, religious sensitivities, other things of that nature. So what may work in India may not work in the United States. What works in the United
Exactly.
States may not work in India, and that's a fair assessment, right? So
Right.
in navigating that, particularly as a global company, can be even more challenging because then you have to go through, the Ministry of Entertainment or the Ministry of, the Secretary. Like it's not just I can do this in Ohio, I can do this in Kentucky, I can do this like universally. So how do you navigate that
Right.
space?
So honestly, I've worked in a lot more different regions: Middle East, Singapore,
Yeah,
Thailand, India, United States, Australia. So there have been multiple clients, and what I've realized is, um, there is some core needs of a human that stays the same,
right.
right? And if you're able to understand that, rest of the caveats, rest of the things you can figure out by doing your own research. So let's say if I have
Yeah,
to do, let's say specifically Thailand,
right.
because I speak English, so areas like United States, Australia, and these sort of places are not that culturally alienated to me. But places
Right.
like maybe Thailand or Arabic speaking nations, you really have to understand what is in their culture. Like I have noticed working with a bunch of clients that you know Arabic people prefer content in Arabic. There are so many platforms who have created like an outcome like million or something just
Mhm.
keeping their content in Arabic, and it's like a
Oh
very
wow.
big invest. So
Yeah.
people
Right.
really respect that. In Thailand, it could be very different altogether.
Okay.
So just I think content consumption helps a lot. So whenever, let's
Mhm.
say, I have to look at an objective, so how we work is, we sort of take your problem statements, boil them down, and
Mhm.
come up with solutions, come up with insights. Ki, hey, this is what we have figured. This is how we
Right.
can solve this problem. So what I am trying to build is sort of the McKinsey of content and marketing, because
Beautiful.
how marketing has always happened, either it has been too creative or either too technical, analytical.
Yeah.
And what
Right.
happens in either of these approaches is either you will become very, vague, very much
Efficient.
dependent on your gut, or either you'll be in a position wherein you're heavily optimizing for statistics, which
Right.
may not result into any outcome.
Right.
So what
Right.
and what I've understood, this latter has been more successful because when they're speaking with these bureaucratic clients, they understand this language. More often than not, they do not understand, let's say, a creative person who is, let's say, 23 or 40, whatever,
Right.
who's a little, what do you call it, different in terms of
Right.
their approach and everything. They do not really respect them at times. I've been in such positions. So that
Right.
made me realize, the communication and, the understanding of these clients has to be delivered in a very McKinsey sort of way.
Mhm.
But our approach needs to stay the same, because
Right.
fundamentally creativity, is to understand, how the human feels, and how
Right.
can I, make change the emotion. How can I
Right.
make them feel something? How can I
Right.
add something to it? Whatever that is. So we are
Yeah.
going with this approach, and that's why one approach helps, that we go and we do our research, we gather the insights, and then
Right.
we sit down and we be like, how do we now target a person who's, let's say, sitting in an office of Thailand or
Right.
any other region for that matter. Because
Right.
fundamentally, as humans, there are some things that matter to everyone the same.
Right. And so it's crazy about that. So I'm a huge boxing fan, right? Like I just watched the Shakur Stevenson Teofimo Lopez fight, right? Shakur looked
Right,
fantastic. But now you have like Saudi Arabia really big into boxing right now. And the perfect example of knowing cultures and locations is you can tell the differences between a fight that's in America versus a fight that's in Saudi Arabia. And I say this very respectfully,
right,
right? Look, for example, the ring girls. They can't dress like that in Saudi Arabia as they would in right. Like you notice right away. You're immediate. And I'm not. Listen, this is not that show where I talk about like whatever to each his own. But you notice like if you were
right,
marketing something like that, you couldn't market the ring girls, in that
right,
particular sector of the world because you're like, yo, you didn't do your homework here, man. That's not gonna fly here.
right,
Right. So that's
exactly.
just to your point of your homework and your research, of really knowing that audience, that culture, that location to have a successful outcome for the client.
Right, right. And that's just how we have seen a lot of success in the past. We have realized, because of paying attention to these smaller details, we have
Yes.
gotten great outcomes. And
Yes.
also at times, you need to mix multiple different things to get an outcome. Like marketing is always not like, okay, let's just do content because it's gonna get views or whatever that is, right? It's
Oh yeah.
more than that. You have to understand whatever notions your client has. Or let's say the
Right.
second thing is whatever the restriction that, as you mentioned, in Saudi, you cannot have, the ring girls, so to
Right.
say, dressed more freely or whatever that is.
Yes.
So you need to understand those caveats and you need to operate accordingly. And I think
Right.
that is what results into, like, I remember one of our problem statements. I was working with a financial venture, and they were doing sort of an event, and the problem of the event was they could have not marketed it, because the person that they were partnering up in the Middle East region were
Mm.
not appreciative of the fact that, whatever they are discussing goes out there, because that
Yep.
will end up landing them in a problem or whatever that is. That was
Exactly.
the problem. So they could have not had podcasts, they could have not had PR,
Right.
camera guys show up and this, that, whatever. We came up with a strategy. We're like fund, and all of these people are like MDs of the biggest organizations and
Oh yeah.
everything, especially in the financial sector of
Yeah.
Middle East. We're like, one fundamentally of all human is that they like their egos to be massaged. Everyone wants to be a little famous. They cannot be like they get millions of views. They at least want to show up on their WhatsApp or Instagram or
Oh
TikTok
yeah.
statuses saying that, hey, I got interviewed by this person. So we brought an
Absolutely.
anchor, a
Yeah.
female, beautiful looking anchor who was very smart and has been in the business for a long time. I got her and her team to come and set up a booth right outside the event. And what we did is we were just like, hey, we don't want to know anything about the financial industry. We don't want to know what did you do in the event. We don't
Yeah.
wish to know, where are you from, whatever.
We want to know
All I
about
want,
you.
give me your leadership insights.
Yes. Very something very yes.
Got
Yes.
into it.
Right.
I swear
Right.
we got into it. The best part was, in a span of 24 hours, because this is a very big struggle that, a lot of these people who come in front of the camera, pictures or whatever, they're like, yeah, I need it quickly, right? So what we did is we got them to do these short videos and everything. We got them edited very well, and we had click some pictures of theirs and everything, and we collected that, we put it in a folder, and we shared that ahead with that team. We're like, hey, now whoever is the POC in this particular region, go ahead and email all of your clients saying, hey, Rashad, it was quite wonderful that you showed up.
Right.
whatever, whatever.
Right.
And here are the videos and pictures and everything. If you'd like to, tag us or whatever, this is us at X
Ex-
on LinkedIn.
right.
So you can
Right.
go ahead and, do this. And
Right.
you'd believe it or not, a lot of people went on LinkedIn, took that because it was a beautiful looking video where a person was holding a mic and asking them questions. Okay, hey sir,
Right.
you're great. How do you, come up with these insights, or
That's
how do you handle your employees or whatever? And they went ahead and then shared these things. And in the background, there was a banner of the company that we were working for. So
right. And you're
sort
not
of
disclosing right, and you're not disclosing any proprietary information. You're not
correct,
talking about anything
correct.
about that. Right. It's not the business I'm talking about. The
Yeah,
business is in the background. So the name is
yeah,
there. Even if and
exactly.
the person could care less who's watching the video. Like, I don't, what they do is irrelevant. I see the banner and I see the successful person associated with that
Correct,
company.
correct, correct, correct.
Right.
And all of these people belong to the same industry. Just imagine 10 people posting the same thing from the same
Yeah.
event. It makes people curious, and
Right.
it shows to a lot of, like, I remember what ended up happening is, because we had said also this email, ki if you need anything, you can contact me. So there was a bunch of partners, and there was those partners' clients who had showed up.
Mm-hmm.
So they ended up contacting, "Hey, we love this. Can we get a meeting with the POC?"
Yeah.
In Europe, someone was like, "Hey, I never knew that you guys work with this gentleman,"
Right.
and we did not,
Right.
right? So
But it didn't
they
matter.
just had a perception that
It didn't matter.
X company worked with this X gentleman, and they were just
Right.
like, "Hey, let's
Right.
get on board," and they were one of the biggest in Europe for that
Well,
company.
it's funny when you say something is big, right? So, like in America here, you're thinking, and I say this respectfully, like Leonardo DiCaprio was like the biggest movie star in the world. Like, no, the biggest
Correct,
movie stars in the world are in Asia. Okay, so
right,
like you guys have actors in your backyard that
correct,
billions of people see, right?
right,
Billions, and you're like, you'll suddenly look up like who's the biggest movie star, and I say this respectfully, no diss. It's a Bollywood actor, or it's an actor from Hong Kong, and you'll be like, are you kidding me? And they're like, yeah, you do realize your section of the earth has a fraction of what they have on their side of the
right,
planet, right? And
right.
so you're like, oh my god, right? You're so, to your point, there are much bigger things that are available worldwide than you think that there are.
Yeah, and would you believe this insight to me came randomly after running, a half marathon? I was like, shit, half marathon is also a thing wherein you cannot really go and, just record it and market it, ki, oh, let's upload on social media and get people. The
Yeah,
best marketing tactic of a marathon is to click people's picture, give it to them after the race, and they feel very good about it, ki, have achieved this thing. So they go
right,
ahead and post it on their Instagram, and they get some
exactly,
validation, which
right.
ends up them going and do it again. Two, the person who liked it or watched it is like, hey, this is cool. I should also try this. So
Exactly.
that is how this honestly idea came to me. This
Yeah.
this
You
race that I did.
it's the out of the box thinking, and more importantly, if you have, like, because high level successful people run marathons. It's not just, it could be like, hey, yeah, this is the CEO of a financial firm. He's like, and then
Right,
it looks like a real person, like, hey, yeah, this guy may be, or this woman may be the VP of a financial firm or a high level
right,
institution, but they ran a marathon on a Sunday. They're sweaty, so it breaks the barrier. Like, oh yeah, by the way, they work for this large financial corporation and they just ran a half marathon or a full marathon. So it bridges the gap between the younger clientele, the younger base they're trying to cultivate, because they're showing that they're regular people while still showing a seriousness about the firm or the company that they represent. Like, hey, this is our
right,
CEO. He rock climbs, right? He
right,
just parachuted, but at the same time, he or she is in a boardroom handling their business. So it's not offensive.
right,
It's not racy.
right.
It's not anything, controversial. It's just like, yeah, this person has a real life outside of what they do.
Yeah, I remember there was I believe one of very big legal firms out of I think Singapore or something,
Mm-hmm.
which we were working with, and I was just sitting down with a bunch of their team, and I was realizing what do they do. They operate in very different functions, and I was asked, can we do some sort of like an employee spotlight kind of thing with them, wherein we just record their videos, what did they do, how did they do. So anytime that they approach a client from this X law firm, the client knows about them a bit or something. I was like, instead of doing just this, random basic shit,
Shouldn't,
can we make it a bit more cooler? Let's say,
of
so
course.
there was a person I remember. Let's call him Jay. So Jay basically used to do bodybuilding, and he had competed in a national competition or something. There was
Right.
another lady who used to do, cycling, like professional cycling. So there was a lot
Correct.
more people who had a lot of those hobbies. I was like, why don't, instead of you just doing this basic shit, ki which background did they come from, this, that, whatever, you also show the human side of them. That this person goes to play
Yes.
golf,
Yes.
they do this, they are
Yes.
weightlifting or whatever.
Right.
Because next time when
Yes.
they speak to the people, let's assume they've seen their LinkedIn or that video randomly comes up on their screen. They're like, hey, this guy
Right.
does this. I'm a very big fan of the sport,
Right.
and
Right.
that's the
That's
edge. Right?
it's the yeah, because the difference is now you're not just selling the service like you said earlier, you're selling yourself, right? And
Correct.
everybody, like, you, the marketing firm or the podcaster that you choose to be on the show of, I could read off a script and say, Adarsh, where'd you go to school? Adarsh, where'd you go to high school? Adarsh, what's your
Right.
CV, your resume, yada 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 yada, and just read it
Yeah.
off as a one pager, and you'd be like, dude, man, like, or you can sit back and say, what's the sauce behind what you do,
Yeah.
and people, and now that the genie is out of the proverbial bottle, there's no going back. So, for
Correct.
everybody who's listening, and I could talk about this for days just because the litany of the groups of people that I've talked to and the opportunity that I've had with this, and you can similar say this, you better be prepared, you better be thinking ahead, and you better be making the future one better than your current one, right?
Correct.
Because it's that competitive, right? It's that you have to be on point all the time because you are, like you said, you are one doom scroll away from tanking things.
Exactly. And as I mentioned earlier itself, the most difficult niche, or where there is no competition altogether, is
Right.
your own personality, right?
Right.
And the one thing about that is, people like people who like them, or people like people who are like them. So
Right.
when fundamentally someone understands, hey, this is pretty cool. Also enjoy it, or I also enjoy weightlifting. They
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously start liking you. And at that scale of business, it's about, dealing with people. It's about liking a person, the ability to work
Yes.
with them, as we
Right.
discussed earlier. So, I mean, those are the perspectives I think, honestly, companies need to start looking from.
And I think that anybody who's not is losing out a significant client base, and more importantly, doing a disservice to their business model. You can still
Exactly.
play it safe. You can still have your core values, and don't go jump in the deep end of something that doesn't
Right.
represent you. I don't want to say edgy, but showing more humanistic side. And from
Correct.
you've seen law firms and financial companies start to loosen up and tell jokes in the context of we know this is a boring thing, we know it's not fun, we know this is like
Right.
the last thing people, but they'll be like, okay, listen, at the end of the day, it's something you have to do. So I always ask this of every guest because I've had such a great time. And where can people find Adarsh Mishra and A&M Co. and what you do? Where can people locate you?
So people can look at us on our website, LinkedIn, my personal profile, can reach out to me, and we can explore if we can do some work together. But we are just, because there is a lot of opportunity. So where I love to tap into, as I mentioned earlier, is working with institutions, and especially the ones who are at that scale, who are
Yeah.
afraid to take any step, working with them, understanding their problem, and coming up with solutions that keeps them relevant. So a lot of
Right.
clients that I work with, their major challenge is relevance today, because they've been in business for a long time, but they
Right.
want to make sure that they stay in ahead for a long time as well. So yeah, that's about us.
And you've done very successful in the crowded space, and it's always great to talk to people. Without this podcast, I would never get a chance to talk to you, right? You're halfway across the earth, and we, our paths likely would never have crossed, but we are ultimately connected by this very beautiful opportunity to really share these stories with this world. And my goal of this show
Yeah.
has always been to talk to successful people, irrespective of their geographical location. So I want to personally thank you for taking time out of your schedule. And if everybody who's listening, hit the subscribe button. There's more content for people like Adarsh because, success knows no boundaries or no oceans.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much,
your
Russell.
time.
Thank you for giving me a platform, and you've been an incredible host. So thank you so much for that.
It's been a pleasure. I know we bounced a couple times back and forth. It's finally a good time it's not easy matching up time zones, man. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
appreciate you.
Same here, man. Thank you so much. Bye.